Hi, this is Holly from The Sweet Simple Things, and welcome to my channel where we make healthy and nourishing recipes the whole family will love. Make sure you hit subscribe to see all the latest recipes. Today I'm going to show you how we make our whole wheat pumpkin spice sourdough English muffins. I am in love with this recipe. They're super easy to make and they're super festive for fall. I think you're going to love them. So I'm making mine with fresh milled hard red wheat. This is just kind of your typical regular whole wheat flour. If you don't mill your own flour, you could just buy a bag of whole wheat flour at the store. Then we're going to add the flour to our mixing bowl, some water, pumpkin puree. And so I'm doing this in a mixer, but you can certainly do this by hand too. Melted butter, a little bit of sourdough starter. The amount I give some tips in the article for how much to use. It just depends on how fast you need the fermentation to go. There's some salt, some brown sugar, and then we also do a little bit of maple syrup because that's just kind of a quintessential fall flavor. And then I'm using a full tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice to really make sure that those fall flavors pop in this. So I'm putting my mixing bowl, installing it in my mixer, and I'm just going to use the mixing paddle. I'm going to stir it all together until it's all mixed properly, and then I'm going to let the dough rest for about 20 to 30 minutes before I try to knead it. Okay, that's certainly well mixed enough. So I'm just going to kind of cover this here and let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then I'm gonna put on the dough hook and use that to knead the dough until it comes together basically like this. It really doesn't need much kneading at all. So this is a super easy recipe. Like I said, you can totally make it by hand because it doesn't require a lot of heavy kneading. Cover it up and let it do its bulk fermentation until it rises above 50% or a little more is okay. Then we are going to roll it out with some cornmeal. This cornmeal is really important because not only is it going to prevent it from sticking to the counter, but it's going to prevent it from sticking to the cast iron skillet when we make these. So I highly recommend making sure you use the cornmeal. And when you dump it out on your surface, I would roll it in the cornmeal and make sure all sides are covered. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just make sure you've got cornmeal all around. Then grab your rolling pin and you can go ahead and roll this out until it's about a 1/2 inch thick. It's pretty easy to roll out. You don't need to get super thin, but you don't want to leave it super thick either because these will puff up when they cook. About a 1/2 inch is the right amount. You're going to need something to cut your circles with. I'm using a wide mouth mason jar, but you can use a biscuit cutter if you have one. Or a large cookie cutter if you want, but a mason jar works really well. So you just kind of use it like a cookie cutter, cut all the way around. Once you've filled up all of the dough you have rolled out, you can use a small spatula to help scoop these out. And I'm just keeping them on a baking sheet to proof. We're not going to bake these in the oven. We're going to use a cast iron skillet on the stove, but the baking sheet's just a convenient place to set these while they proof. So after you get, your first batch all cut out like this, you're going to take the scraps, gently roll them up and roll them out again with the rolling pin and keep cutting muffins until you've used all of the dough. I was able to use every single inch of my dough and I got 20 English muffins. So you just kind of keep going. But, when you take the scraps, roll them out and roll them out with the rolling pin, you do want to be careful not to just completely degas the dough and ruin everything that you got from that bulk fermentation, but it will be okay. It's not a super delicate dough. So I'm just using my little dessert spatula to pull these out because, it's just a little serving spatula, but I love it because it's small and it's really nice when I'm trying not to just deflate these and ruin them as I pull them off the counter. So I like using a small spatula because I just feel like I have more control, but use whatever you have. So now here you can see what I'm going to do with all these leftover scraps. I'm just going to kind of gently put them in a ball and roll them out again. If it's sticking to your rolling pin, you're going to want to use a little more cornmeal, because if it's sticking to the rolling pin, it's going to probably stick to that cast iron. So you just want to make sure that you've got enough on there that it's not sticking. But if it's not sticking, then you're good. You don't need to go crazy with the cornmeal. Same thing, I'm going to use my jar and cut out as many as I can, and then I'm going to roll up the scraps yet again and do another batch, and then I think yet another batch for the last one or two. Now here we have all of our cut English muffins. I'm going to let these sit in a warm place to proof for about an hour or two. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap so they don't dry out as well. When it's time to cook, I'm using level 4 on my stove. This is a medium low. It's very important that we cook these on medium low because we have some sugar, the pumpkin, the maple syrup in these that can make it prone to burning. I know often English muffin recipes will call for a very hot skillet, but medium low is what we need for this recipe. Just trust me. Let it cook 5 to 7 minutes per side. When that bottom side is beautifully golden, you can flip it. Give it another 5 to 7 minutes. You want to let it go until the middle is cooked all the way through and you've got that nice golden brown on both sides. Here you can see what it looks like when it's done. We've got the nice brown circles on there. The cornmeal helped keep it from sticking, and we've got a really nice rise on these. So these are coming out great. You can cook it in batches of however many your skillet can hold at a time. Try to just flip these once per cook, but if you accidentally flip them too early and have to go back over, that's not a big deal. But you can just see how the bottom is nice and brown when I'm flipping these. And you want to give it plenty of time. It's going to puff up a little bit on that first side, but it'll puff up even more once you flip them too. And so these were a super fun treat. I love them with peanut butter and honey, but we also made a ton of breakfast sandwiches and stuck them in the freezer for mornings that are just crazy, especially with school starting. So I really hope you guys enjoy these.